What lovely sunshine today.
Works.
Now, James Anagnoson and Leslie Kinton are good friends of the Festival of the Sound. They gave us a vivid performance of Petrushka in its original four-hand version this afternoon. And there's more to come in the days to come. So please welcome Jim and Leslie to our 30th anniversary series. Now, you've played here many times, gentlemen, in the past, for which thank you. And you played many other festivals, including Elora, I think, last week. And I saw you a couple of days ago at the Toronto Summer Music Festival. What do you find different and distinctive about the Festival of the Sound?
The train whistle.
We don't get it in the middle of concerts anymore the way we used to at the old festival hall. But it was that's a.
So you're nostalgic.
Well, you know, from my standpoint, it's obviously all the festivals. It's the music making, but added to that is the camaraderie. We see colleagues and friends that we just don't see all year, and then you combine that with a setting. It's as close to a working vacation as you can get.
I think there's also, for me, there's an informality. I mean, even now I look out and I see faces I know, and it's a little more relaxed than during the year. It's beautiful to see. I mean, it's inspiring to us as musicians to have come from a high school gym and to see a beautiful place like this get built and to be part of that first year and hear that sound. And it's a very inspiring thing.
We're not exaggerating when we say that it's probably one of the finest halls in Canada. It really is. The acoustics are just sensational.
Yeah, it's a beautiful hall, and it's people have come. I mean, there's series that are midday series, 12 o'clock series, and 2:30 series, and people are interested, and people are. It's just more relaxed, and it feels often a little more one-on-one in terms of music making. I like that a lot here.
Is there anything you miss about the old setting?
No.
So, a quarter of a century's history eliminated.
I got to tell you, I got to tell you though, there was some great music making made in that place.
That's true.
I mean, great music making. I heard some of the finest concerts I've ever heard in that high school gym.
There was quite a buzz around the Bartok Sonata for two pianos, wasn't
there was quite a buzz because I got stung on my thumb by a bee. That's right. Good memory, Keith. I'm allergic to yellow jackets, and I was sipping at Tim Hortons outside the high school gym that morning in rehearsal, and a bee found its way, and I did get stung. And I remember during the day soaking it in Georgian Bay, and the allergy was okay, but my thumb was just, if we had been playing Mozart, I would have gone home. I mean, I couldn't get my thumb under. But for chordal stuff, so what I remember most that night is I have no idea even who we played with. All I remember was trying to get through the Bartok with a thumb the size of my hand.
Oh my.
I think it was Russell Hart
Robin Engelman.
And Robin Engelman.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Good memory.
Now, you don't need to hear Anagnoson and Kinton perform to know that they've been investigating the two-piano and piano duet repertoire for years. The reason I say that is they've got one of the very best website addresses going, and those addresses get snapped up pretty quickly. It's pianoduo.com. So, such a good address. Now,
we were so lucky.
Yeah. But you were there in the pioneering days. Yeah. When was your duo, Anagnoson and Kinton, founded? When did you start?
That's the exact. We usually put the exact the first year as 1976 because that was when we did our first European tour in January. But our first rehearsal was in the basement of the conservatory 2 months after my daughter was born. She's not here, is she? In 1974. So and
as a group, we always say chamber music really should come down to you play with a group because they click. So in all the years of teaching, I've taught many chamber groups, but I've taught one piano duo that also clicked. And Leslie and I clicked. We sat down and we played together.
Yeah, it's dumb luck.
And everything after that, has been tremendous amount of commitment, moving to Toronto for a career that you're not sure, a piano duo, there is a career, is there repertoire that will really stimulate you? So after that, there's a lot of growth, a lot of commitment, a lot of tenacity. And I was thinking the other night, we played in Toronto Tuesday night. We played pretty well on Tuesday night. I think we played better. I mean, I think we're playing better than we ever have. And what I was thinking, I mean, I know we are. I know we're more confident. I know we're better players. But what's interesting is the group, it occurred to me, is that it's one thing for one person to grow as they go through a course of a career. But it's really unusual that we each will be parallel tracking that, because we really have. And that's I mean, I think that's kind of amazing. I think we're kind of very lucky. Very lucky.
Yeah. I mean, when I said dumb luck, it was partly tongue-in-cheek, but there's a certain truth to that. You either can play with somebody or you can't. You're on the same wavelength or you're not. And if you don't start with that ability to play in sync, it's a hard row to hoe to create a viable chamber ensemble. And so, I mean, and after we realized we could play together, we spent hours and hours and hours doing 1/10 tempo, practicing even out of rhythm, just to hear every single vertical chord together and blend it. So, you know.
Yeah, we went looking for a sound.
Yeah, the sound was the first thing that we started with.
And we really didn't, it's not like there was a sound that we all know as a two-piano sound.
Yeah.
It's not like a string quartet.
Yeah,
it's a funny medium in that way, and we were, in a way, it was good that we did a lot of work as we developed our solo playing, we developed chamber playing, and then we met each other, and then we tried this funny, fluky two-piano thing, and we said, well, what kind of a sound do we want?
And when we first got together, there was no intent to make a career out of it. I mean, we loved it, but we played at the Eastman School of Music, and Jim's teacher at the time, earlier, was Eugene List, and a great pianist. And he took us to his house for a reception, and he sat us down and he said, "You guys have to do this professionally." Huh. And we responded, "Huh?" I mean, it was the last thing that, and he just, he became our mentor, really, and guide. Arranged for us to play in Europe, and right up till his death, he was a big part of who we are.
You think of, I mean, as teachers, because we each teach and we've been very involved in teaching as kind of a parallel track with our playing, and you have such a profound influence on people. And, I mean, I was aware of that from Eugene, and in that particular case, to make the commitment to do this, I needed Eugene we both did, really.
Yeah.
And to endorse it. We had other musicians, a couple of others in particular, but Eugene really said, "Jim, you got to move from New York, go to Toronto. You really have to do this. You guys really can."
Is it hard to give up on the idea of a solo career?
No. Not once. Well, for me, it wasn't. Once we found out what the repertoire was, I mean, that's the bottom line, is that you want a lot of repertoire to learn your entire life.
Yeah, we also weren't 18. We'd been playing a lot.
We've been playing.
I mean, a lot of solo.
That's a prerequisite. You have to have your act together as soloists first.
And I don't think we thought of it as giving up. I didn't think of it as giving up on anything.
We both do solo stuff. We do chamber stuff, but it was.
But it did end up. I mean, we ended up playing a lot more than I think we thought we would play.
Yeah.
I mean, we had the ultimate gift. We got to go on the road, take the show on the road, and play every night in different places, and they pay you money to do it. I was like, are you kidding?
and the learning curve of doing a piece like the Mozart 2 Piano Sonata, 400 or 500 times.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other way to get to know a piece like a masterpiece like that. But for me, the big thing was when we found out what the repertoire was, because it's a fraction of the solo repertoire, but that's like a fraction of infinity. So, you know, I mean, there's way more than we will ever learn.
What about the nature of the duo repertoire, both two pianos and piano duet, that has really kept you interested and, you know, working so hard and so effectively, you know, for
if I could answer the first part of that, and Jim pick it up, the prerequisite, absolute prerequisite, is the quality of the music.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it. That's the answer.
Every great composer wrote at least one of their greatest works either for piano duet or for two pianos.
So,
and in the case of Schubert, you've got 4 volumes of piano duets.
So Mozart only wrote one two-piano sonata, but it's such a great sonata.
It's one of his great works.
And it's so difficult.
The Brahms Haydn Variations, which we're playing tomorrow, is acknowledged by a lot of Brahms scholars as being probably one of his great works. Not one of his great two-piano works, one of his great works.
So those pieces are lifelong journeys.
And
I mean,
then,
the Mozart we play, I mean, Tuesday night really, I think, was one of our best Mozarts. I think I've often remembered, I was at Juilliard at the same time as Emmanuel Axe. Manny was, at that time, going to Columbia as well as Juilliard because he didn't know if he could make it in music. And
I think he did.
He's a very humble guy, and he really is the same guy now. He hasn't changed a bit in that way. But he wasn't sure if he could make it, and we all kind of looked and thought, boy, if anybody can cut through that one narrow little window, he's the guy. And so I think to a person, we were thrilled when he did. But he's married to a wonderful pianist. They just did the Bartok in Toronto. But I remember early on in his career, someone in an interview said to him, so are you and your wife going to play the Mozart? And he said, oh, that's way too hard. And I thought, well, yeah, so we only have one Mozart, but we've had the opportunity to learn it. And I walked off stage and said, I'm not playing that again for a long time.
That's right.
But then we came back and we went on the road and we got to play it again and again. And every time we got better. And then we put it away. And it's been 25 years and hundreds of concerts. And suddenly Tuesday night, I sort of know what to do, And I'm still getting better.
Do you find, is it possible to quantify this? Is duo piano work for you more rewarding, do you think, than the solo journey as a soloist?
That's an interesting question. I think the luck part that I was talking about at the beginning means that we, in terms of the technical side of playing duos and forehand works, we have that naturally the way some of the great soloists have it naturally in terms of playing solo rep. But that's as far, so there's a gratification about being able to play something that you feel suited for. But beyond that, I think it's just a question of the repertoire. The music is so great, and we love to play it.
Yeah, for me, I'm a musician. My life is music. My passion is music. And I'm a lucky guy in that I get to live that passion through what we do. I get to live it through my teaching. I get to live it through the occasional chamber music things that I make time for, and sometimes a solo thing. The medium is not really relevant. Yeah. I think the duo has forced us. We are such different players, despite the fact that we play so well. We're such different players that it made us get better at the things we were weak in.
Yeah.
Because we're playing with another pianist, and you had to kind of step it up in a certain area, and I'm not sure. I think that's been a wonderful.
It's huge. We're opposite. Our natural abilities and our natural inclinations are in opposite areas, and it's forced us to each bring ourselves up.
How do you mean? What do you mean?
A composer once called us Ben Marcato and Ben Legato.
Because Jim studied with one of the great Romantic pianists of the 20th century, Eugene Liszt, and basically that was your area of repertoire. Mine was classical, Mozart, and I leapfrogged over the 19th century into the 20th century, and where we both met was in Beethoven, because we both played Beethoven pretty well as soloists, but we had that different training, different inclinations, different physiques, and there's nothing like having a colleague tell you in the technical terms of your own instrument what's wrong with what you're doing. In chamber music, especially when you play with more experienced players, it's a wonderful thing because they can as students but they can't tell you in the terms.
And you don't even have to say it. It's just you're both playing the piano.
Yeah,
you got a piece that demands a certain thing, and you hear that and go, okay, I need to be able to do that. And you find ways, and I think we've each done that.
Yeah. So you wouldn't subscribe to the view that being a soloist, you can be personally more expressive?
No, not a chance.
Not a chance.
I knew that wouldn't go anywhere.
I mean,
There's something in your body language. You know?
if we couldn't be expressive as a duo, then we just pack it in.
Yeah, well, again, that goes back to the repertoire.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you be more expressive than aiming for the best possible performance of the Brahms-Haydn variations?
Well, and it is also the
Or
combination.
Rachmaninoff suite. Or,
It's also you and I. The music demands it, so we each do it. And there are instances where we're fanatical about balances and about listening and about allowing the person who's leading to lead. And we don't need to talk about it anymore, but we would often stop in the early days in a newer piece and say, this is what my right hand is doing. This is what it needs to be able to do, and I need to be relaxed to be able to do this, so get out of the way and let me do that.
I think the growth individually as musicians has a lot to do also with the fact that the totality of the piece isn't contained by us individually physically. So we're forced to think outside of ourselves and envelop something outside of ourselves in pure piano terms. And so we have to hear a piano sound that's not just coming out of our fingers. And that is an enormous tool for development.
What is the worst two pianos that you came across when you were touring in the early days?
The worst two pianos were in Macau. In Macau, we had a 9-foot and a 3-foot. I mean, it was really literally a 9-foot grand and a tiny little grand. And for whatever reason...
Both of them no name.
They were no-name pianos.
We didn't know what they were.
And for whatever reason, I don't know, why was it I got the big one?
I think it was the one time you won when we flipped a coin.
Maybe. So we played the concert and we said, okay, here's what we're going to do. I said, I'm playing the big piano. I promise you, I will listen to you the whole way through the concert. But when we get to the very last 2 pages of the last piece, I'm cutting loose. So I'm not going to listen to a note because I will not hear a note that you play. You can play the Star Spangled Banner, and I'm not going to hear you.
He said, "Don't get mad at me."
I said, "Don't get mad at me." So be prepared because it's I want to really. That's the last sound we want to hear. And I always remember suddenly the volume coming up, and it was tremendously effective for the audience.
Yeah, exactly.
And Leslie went over there. He was shaking his head around and moving. And you couldn't hear.
I felt like Marcel Marceau, I mean, the mime. I mean, there was nothing. I mean, you couldn't hear me at all.
Terrible piano.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall. James Anagnoson and Leslie Kinton have performed as a piano duo since 1976, they've just told us. And they're very welcome visitors here at the Festival of the Sound. Pianoduo.com is where you can find out more about the team, and festivalofthesound.ca is where you can find out about our festival here in Parry Sound, Ontario, Canada. I'm Keith Horner. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Great stuff.